Hi everybody, welcome to English Digest. I'm Pat.
And I'm Erin.
And we're looking at a topic unit for writing this month based on movies.
That's right.
Are you much of a movie watcher?
I used to be, but I'm not anymore.
What stopped you? What changed?
Well, I'm too busy a lot of the time. And as I've gotten older and TV has gotten better.
There is that, yes.
I've started just watching a lot more TV shows, but I don't have a lot of time to watch anything, so I usually just watch one TV show a day.
Yeah, I'm probably about that. Maybe another one on weekends.
Right, and so the rest of the time, I just don't have the time to sit down for a 2-hour-long movie anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough. There are some movies that I will go out of my way to see,
yes.
but the vast bulk of them, I will probably just not bother unless a friend, family member is like, yeah, we're going to see this. Do you want to come? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There's one or two that I will go and, kind of go and see, even if I have to go and see them by myself.
Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong with that?
No, not at all. Okay, so we're looking at movies, and we're kind of looking at movies that have had a lot of meaning. That's what this unit is about. A movie that isn't just kind of fun or entertaining or kills some time.
Right.
This is a movie that's kind of had an effect on your life.
Right. It's inspirational, you could say, which is where the title of our unit comes from. The most inspirational movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, so the instructions for this piece of writing say that watching movies is a kind of entertainment, but they make people feel relaxed. Sometimes the movies change people's perspective on life. They want an essay about a movie that has inspired you the most, which should contain around 120 words or a little more, and divided into 2 paragraphs. Okay. As always, it's important to read those instructions clearly before you start, so you know exactly what's expected of you. You can lose marks in a writing exam or a writing exercise if you just don't pay attention and write more or less or do things in a different way than what you've been asked to do.
Right. You don't want to mess that up because it's one of the more simple things you have to do in an essay.
Exactly.
Is read the instructions clearly.
Yep.
Now, what you want to do first is you want to develop your approach. So we know that this is going to be a narrative essay, and that means that you're going to be writing sort of about an experience that you have. You're going to be narrating something that is an experience that you've had, or sort of giving you an example of your own life.
Yeah, you're not making an argument here and trying to say one thing is better than another thing. You're not comparing them. You're not giving advice or something like that. You're basically telling a story.
Right.
And with a beginning and a middle and an end. So you'll need to remember to include those.
Right.
Now, the article has said 2 paragraphs, so you might be wondering what should go into each paragraph. Well, we've kind of got an approach here, whereas the first paragraph should contain all the important information about the movie, okay? We're writing about a movie that's inspired us. Of course, you need an introduction, but the first paragraph should be about that movie. Who's in it? What's the story? What happens? Some of the important moments in it. That's your first paragraph.
Okay, so the second paragraph is going to show how the movie inspired you. So in the first one, we talked about what the movie was about. And in the second paragraph, we're going to talk about how it affected you personally, how it relates to your lives, or how it caused you to change your behavior or something similar to that.
Exactly. We're looking for connections between your life and the movie.
Right.
And these could be connections that happened, in recent times, or it could be connections that happened a long time ago.
Right.
So in which case, when you talk about the changes, you also need to mention when you saw this movie, what changed, and also kind of what the result of that change has been, if there have been any kind of long-term or even short-term consequences to that inspirational moment you had when you watched the movie and it kind of struck you and you went, oh, that means something to me. I'm changing.
Right. Maybe that's what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
I can fix this.
Hey, that guy keeps losing all these beautiful girls. That happens to me too. I should learn from that guy's mistakes and not do all those things he did.
Okay.
So just to get us warmed up then and thinking about movies, there's a fun game online where you try and describe a popular movie in 5 words.
I have played this game before.
Okay, so, all right, do we want to see if we can challenge each other with some examples? 5 words to summarize the whole movie.
Okay.
Okay, my one that I really do quite like is doomed romance while ship sinks.
Ooh, that was a big movie when I was in high school.
Same.
You can guess my age from that, probably.
Yeah.
Titanic.
Yes, doomed romance. So a failed romance. It was never going to work out while a big ship went into the water. Okay, have you got one for me?
I have one that I think you'll really like.
Go for it.
Hobbit destroys ring, saves world.
That's not a difficult one for me. I know that is the Lord of the Rings movies, which, by the way, I consider as one single movie rather than 3. Okay, here's a more modern one in the last kind of 5 years or so. Criminals enter dreams, find redemption.
Ooh, Inception?
It is Inception. Yes, well done. And a more classic one here.
Okay.
Son avenges father, everyone dies.
Oh, and this may be where my not watching movies.
Well, to be fair, this wasn't a movie first. It was something else first.
Was it a video game first?
It was a play first.
Okay, say it one more time.
Son avenges father, everyone dies.
Was it Hamlet?
It is Hamlet. Well done. Shakespeare's Hamlet. Okay, so that's got us thinking about movies. Some of those movies have important meanings, like The Lord of the Rings has a very important meaning for me. Yeah, stick together, good defeats evil.
Right.
Don't trust the mad creature with the strange voice.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know, 3 important lessons right there.
Yep.
Okay, dwarves and elves can be friends.
Right. Well,
despite their differences.
Doomed romance while ship sinks. I don't know. I guess, go down with the one you love or try to rescue the person you love and make room on that door.
Yes.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Make room on that door. There's room for 2 people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, don't be too proud of the things you have built, you know.
Right.
They called that ship unsinkable.
Unsinkable.
Yeah,
it definitely wasn't.
Pride comes before a fall.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are some meanings in those movies we've talked about. So let's get into that first paragraph, generating some ideas. So hopefully by now you've got an idea of a movie that does have an important meaning for you. Okay, so now we've got that movie, we need to start planning out our first paragraph. And like a lot of narrative essays, we can use question words to do this. Words like who, when, where, what, why, and how. Okay, we need to think about those questions, make them into complete questions, and that'll give us the details we need to write this first paragraph. Okay, so for example, a very simple one to start with, what is the name of the movie? You need to include that.
If you don't, I'm not sure exactly what you're going to be writing about.
Exactly. We're not playing the guessing game that we just played in this article.
Right.
We do need to mention the name of the movie. What else do we need to know?
We need to know who the main characters are in the movie and what that person or these people are like. So you could tell us who they are and then describe them briefly.
Yeah, because they may have some important things either about their personality or about their situation that kind of relate to you. So that's going to probably be an important clue in why this movie has inspired you.
Right.
Okay, of course, you then need to write what happens to the person in the movie or those people. So you're likely to have kind of several answers for this because several things usually happen to the main character or characters in a movie, so you'll need to make a note of all the most important ones.
Right. And that's not all. You can finish off with your question word how, and you can ask, how does the movie end? Because, of course, movies that are inspiring to you obviously will usually have an inspiring conclusion.
Yeah, that doesn't always mean a happy ending, but it's certainly an ending that makes a kind of a point, you know, it gives a lesson in some way. Now, right now, you can just make short and simple answers for these questions. You can write 1 or 2 words, short parts of a sentence. you can concentrate on turning them into full sentences a bit later on. So we're going to use the example from our first writing sample here to get these answers to these short questions. And the 5 words to describe this movie are scientist finds love, overcomes disease.
Oh, I know the answer to this movie.
Okay, so our first question, what is the name of the movie?
Okay, the name of the movie is The Theory of Everything.
Okay, now I haven't actually seen this, I will confess. It looked good, and my wife actually burst into tears watching the trailer.
Oh,
so
okay.
I guess at some point we'll probably watch it if she already hasn't.
It is a good movie.
Is it a bit of a weepy? A weepy is kind of a slang informal term for a movie that makes you cry.
Maybe for some people. I'm not a very weepy person.
Okay, and I'm weird because I only cry in happy moments, not sad moments in movies.
Okay. It takes a very emotional movie for me to cry.
Okay,
so
like Bambi or something like that.
Well, maybe when I was a kid it was a bit easier. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the name. Our next question, who is the main character in the movie?
The main character in the movie is Stephen Hawking.
Okay, so that's, of course, a real person, a famous English scientist, physicist, thinker. What is that person like?
Well, in the movie, he's very smart. At the beginning of the movie, I guess I should say, he's very smart, but he's also very lazy.
Yeah, okay. And I guess, where is he in life at the start of the movie?
He's at university.
Okay.
He's maybe in his first or second year of university.
Okay, so he's a sort of college student, smart and lazy. That sounds kind of easy to relate to.
That sounds a little bit like me in university.
Well, there we go. And what happens to that person in the movie?
Well, as everyone knows, because he is a very famous person, he gets a disease, and he also falls in love with his first wife.
Okay, there we go. And how does the movie end?
Well, he figures out he needs to keep going, and he finds his true potential in the end.
Okay, he kind of realizes this is what I'm capable of, and I shouldn't waste it, kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a lot of information there. That's going to help make up our first paragraph. So let's look into the second and start to relate this to the life of the writer.
Okay.
So, when did you see this movie?
Okay, so the person who wrote it said they saw this movie in their last year of high school.
Okay, so we can see there's a connection, students, working and so on.
Right.
Okay. What connected the movie to your life? Could be a few things here.
Well, the writer, I'll just say I, because it's easier.
Yes.
I was a bit like Stephen Hawking. I was a bit lazy.
Okay. So, student, lazy, talented, bright, smart student.
Not too bad of a student.
But just not working hard enough.
Right.
So, what did the movie inspire you to do?
Well, the movie inspired me to live to my fullest potential. And that means I put in a lot more effort to my studies.
Okay, right. And what were the results of this change? How are you different because of what happened?
Well, I was always interested in law, but I never really did anything about it. And when I watched this movie and put in more effort, I got into a top law school.
Okay, so there we go. Those are our kind of short, simple answers that is going to contain all the information we need to write these 2 paragraphs and complete this writing exercise. So before we go on to the structure and the outline and the full samples, we're going to take a short break right now. We'll be back in a few moments. Hi guys, welcome back. So we've kind of got all the information, we've noted it down, we've used those question words, we've figured out all the details. Now we need to start making more of a structure and an outline for our essay.
Right. So it's fairly easy to do this. When you wrote your outline with your sort of question words, you didn't need to write a lot. You just needed to write 1 or 2 word answers, maybe 3 or 4, just short sentences. But what you're going to do, that's not an essay.
No.
So you need to kind of change that into something that really kind of flows together. And to do that, we need to provide an introduction and a conclusion to what we wrote, okay? So these are the beginnings and the endings of our essay.
Yep.
And you can actually see how to make a good introduction and conclusion from the instructions in the magazine. So it's all included there. But let's look at a couple of sample introductions from our articles here, as we had two different approaches when writing these essays. So sample number 1 says, we often watch movies in order to relax. However, sometimes we stumble across a movie that completely changes our perspective on life. Now, this is a general statement about people and not just one person, but it's also a contrast between the movies we watch and forget and the ones that actually change us. So we're probably going to read about that a bit later.
Yeah, so this is kind of introducing that there are movies which have an effect on people, different movies, different people, and that's kind of bringing in the topic. Now, writing sample 2 in our magazine is a little longer, a few more sentences. It is, I've seen a lot of movies in my life. Some have been good, while others have been bad. Many have made me laugh or cry. A few movies have inspired me to become a better person.
Okay.
So this one's a personal introduction. It starts with I, so it's talking about a person, their movie watching habits, and all the different things a movie can affect people by doing, the different effects it can have. And it ends with a sentence with the word inspired me to become a better person, that phrase. So that's linking straight into the topic, a movie that has inspired us. We're kind of expecting that the next sentence will introduce the movie, you know, or one of the few movies that have inspired the writer.
Right.
So there's a few different approaches you can use there, slightly more general, slightly more personal.
Right.
You know, personalize these topic sentences for whichever you prefer.
Right. Another thing to note is that a topic sentence doesn't always need to be one sentence. Like in the second sample, it used more than one. But one thing to remember is that you do have a word count. So you want to make sure that to get into your topic, you don't take up too many of your words to do that.
That's right. I mean, also notice both first sentences involve the word movies.
Right.
So, you know, that's immediately we know, if not the specific topic, we know the general topic that it's going to be about movies.
Right.
So even if we don't know exactly what we're going to be writing about, we've at least got in the right kind of frame of mind. Okay, so then we start to take all these little details that we've formed up and we start with our first paragraph, turn those answers into full sentences, connect them up with transition words, you know, like as a result, therefore, however, and things like that. Okay. And then you just basically write one sentence after another. Now, it is easy to include too much information that's not related to your point, okay? So when you do your outline, make sure you're not including any detail that's not important.
Right.
You could spend 100 words describing the movie, The Theory of Everything, but then you'd run out of words to show how it's affected you.
Exactly.
So concentrate on the most important parts about this movie, the bits that are really connected to your life.
Right. And you can obviously do that really easily because you've already written that information down. So you can just look back at what you know you're going to write in the second paragraph and just kind of take an example from the movie in the first paragraph that connects exactly to that sort of thing. And so, like, you don't have to include too many words because you already have these words kind of written down. You just sort of make these sentences a little bit longer to sort of make your point across. And you can actually see an example of an outline in the magazine and how we sort of put that together.
Yeah, we've built it up from the how, who, what, where, and then you can see the actual writing sample where it's turned into the full sentences. The same is true of the second paragraph. Again, you know the key points you need to get across, and you know, just do the same.
Right.
Make them into full sentences, connect the sentences one into the other so they flow. Use transition words to fit them together, okay, so that they make a sensible sentence, cause, shows, effect, and things like that. And that's how you get to the end of it. And then your conclusion is usually just 1 or 2 sentences, maybe just 1 sentence will be enough to wrap this up.
Right. So the conclusion obviously is going to lead back to what you first talked about in your introduction. And so it's going to just kind of take it in a circle. It's kind of state how you did it using the information that you talked about in the introduction.
That's right.
And one other important note to pay attention to in any essay, not just a narrative one, is how you use the tenses in your essay, because some movies we watch in the past, but we're talking about in the present, it can be kind of confusing. So you need to be careful about how you're using the past tense. But you're probably going to be using the present tense to talk about how you're feeling or how you've changed at this point.
Yeah, we often, it's a kind of writing technique to use the present tense to describe what happens in a story or a movie, because even though the movie was made a long time ago and it could be about past events, imagine you're watching it, you're watching right now.
Right.
So he does this, he goes to this, he finds this out. You're kind of doing it as if you're telling a story that's unfolding before your eyes.
Right.
And we can kind of see that in the writing sample. So there's no better time to move on to our first writing sample. Let's read through it in full first, then we'll look at how the writer has used transition words and some of the other things we've spoken about to write the whole thing.
That's right. Okay, so writing sample 1. We often watch movies in order to relax. However, sometimes we stumble across a movie that completely changes our perspective on life. For me, that movie is The Theory of Everything. This movie is about the life of the celebrated physicist Stephen Hawking. At first, Stephen's a bright yet lazy student. At 21, he's diagnosed with a fatal disease and falls in love with his future wife, both of which help him realize his full potential. He goes on to become one of the 20th century's most brilliant scientific minds. This movie came out during my last year of high school. At the time, I was a bit like the young Stephen Hawking. I was a good student, but I never put effort into my work. Though I was interested in law, I didn't have the motivation to pursue it. After watching this movie, I realized how unpredictable life can be and that I should always live to my fullest potential. As a result, I started putting a conscious effort into my studies and got into one of the country's top law schools.
Okay, so there we go. That is our writing sample, and you can see directly that those questions, the who, the what, the where, we wrote at the start, make up almost all of the sentences. So what was the movie? The Theory of Everything. That's a sentence. It's like the third sentence there.
Right.
Who's it about? It's
Stephen
described.
Hawking.
What's he like? We describe him. What happens to him? Just 2 simple sentences describe what happens in the movie to get him from his disease, his wife, his full potential, and what happens to him in the end.
Right.
And note that we're using present tense for pretty much all of that.
Yes. Okay, so we've also gone into the second paragraph. So keep in mind your structure of your how, what kind of questions. And we saw when it happened, last year of high school. We saw how you compare to the person. I was like the young Stephen Hawking. I was good, but I was lazy. And then what sort of change it inspired you to make. I put more potential, or I put more effort into my studies, and I realized I need to live to my fullest potential.
Yes, because life can be unpredictable.
Exactly.
You never know what might happen. In Hawking's case, it was, it was a disease that suddenly kind of made him feel, oh, okay, I haven't got all the time in the world.
Right.
I need to get my stuff done now.
And then in the end, I finished off with a conclusion. I put more conscious effort into my studies, and what happened? I got into a law school.
Okay, so it kind of speaks for itself there.
Right.
Note some of our transition words and phrases, things like at first to describe Stephen before. At 21, that's a time kind of phrase to show when it happens. He goes on to become, so we know that happens later.
At the time?
Yes, describing
time
you.
Yep.
Though I was interested in law, so we're putting in a contrast there to show, yes, I was interested, but kind of thing. After watching this movie, there's another time one. And then as a result, at the end, we can see that that's the kind of concluding sentence and also what brings it to an end and where we are now.
Now, there's also some vocabulary words we can talk about in this sample. We talked about perspective sort of in the introduction there. Now, a perspective is the way a person looks at or thinks about something. So if your perspective on life is optimistic, you're always happy about the way you look at things. If your perspective is negative, you're always kind of looking at things like, why did this happen to me? Why is always something bad always happening to me? That sort of thing.
Yeah. Another one we saw was realize. Now, realize, we usually use it to mean, oh, you understand something, but in this context, realize means to achieve or fulfill something good.
Right.
It kind of means the same as achieve or accomplish or fulfill, to meet a particular goal.
Right. Another important one here is motivation. Now, a motivation here is a noun, and it's the desire or the willingness to do something. So I didn't have the motivation to put the effort into law school, okay? And so
you just didn't feel like doing it. There was no thing pushing you.
But this movie gave me the motivation.
Gave you that little push. Okay, we're now going to take a look at our second writing sample. Okay, pay attention again to transition words and also the kind of structural things that we've talked about with the first in a different example. Writing sample 2. I've seen a lot of movies in my life. Some have been good, while others have been bad. Many have made me laugh or cry. A few movies have inspired me to become a better person. One of these is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It is about 4 turtles that are made human-sized by a strange chemical while living in the New York City sewers. They learn martial arts and other ninja skills. They then have to use their abilities to defeat the Foot Clan, a criminal organization, and its leader, Shredder. The movie taught me not to judge others by their appearance. The turtles look like monsters and people are afraid of them, but they are fighting crime. In addition, the turtles are good brothers. They sometimes argue, but they always stick together. I remember this lesson when I argue with my own brothers. Finally, the movie inspired me to use my skills for good, like the turtles, and not for evil, like Shredder and the Foot Clan. So, different example, different kind of lessons you can take.
Right.
I mean, yeah, this is kind of a funny action movie with, you know, lots of kind of cool fighting and ninja skills.
You know, but different people learn different lessons from different movies.
Exactly. So the lessons from this movie are completely true as well. I have 2 brothers. We fought as you go. So, but we're still brothers and we will always stick together.
Good.
So again, look out for those transition words and phrases. Look at the structure of how it's all put together, the different 3 points that are raised in the second paragraph, all kind of going back to what happens in the actual movie described in the first paragraph.
Okay.
Yep. Well, that's the end of our teaching lesson today. That's all the time we have. I hope you've learned some interesting and useful things and great skills from this article. It's now your turn to go out and put those skills into practice. I hope it goes well. But for English Digest, that's it for us. I'm Pat.
And I'm Erin.
We'll talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.